I like coming out here and working them. If I get tired of it, I can break it up into, a 2-day segment, work half of them one evening and then the rest the next morning. So it's more enjoyable for me. But honey's the reward, so like I said, it's kind of bittersweet. So I harvested 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I put the empty sucre back on. And these guys have already sealed off more honey, so they've actually, I thought the honey flow was almost over, and that's about the time of year that it usually would be over. But because it's been so wet this year, they are actually collecting a good bit more. So that means come fall time, unless we have an exceptionally dry summer, I will harvest again. I mean, you can see that this frame is pretty much almost filled up, and they've started capping it back off, so that makes me really happy to see that. I actually kind of expected them to be a bit aggressive today because of the overcast skies, and pretty much they're like an old married couple. If it's going to be stormy and rainy, they're going to stay at home. So, yeah, I'm kind of surprised they're not a little more aggressive today. We have brood chambers, which is for rearing new worker bees, and then we have honey supers, which are almost identical in the structure, but they're just a different size for ease of transport. But the way that it's structured, they kind of keep the honey that we harvest in a completely separate chamber. So pretty much they kind of work from inward out and from down up. So the way that we stack the supers, they'll keep the babies and the brood kind of in the bottom, and then as they build up, that'll be typically more honey. You can see the different ways they use the comb. Over here's a little bit of honey. You have some cap brood in here, and in this area here, if you look closely, you can see white little curly worms in there, and that's the larval stage of the worker bee. And once they'll originally start out as eggs in some of these cells and develop into those larval stage. They'll cap it off, or they'll pupate and go through the rest of the maturity process, and then they'll hatch out as the adult worker bee. And here you can see a worker bee getting ready to hatch out, kind of tearing through the waxy comb there. It's not as tight of a pattern as I typically like to see, but there was a break in the brood where the queen had got a different queen, so that's why it's not. Typically it'll be a nice, tight, pretty pattern of capped brood in the middle there, but this is a little non-typical. You can see she's got some brood on the outside there that are going through the different maturity levels. So yeah, you can see a nice tighter pattern here. I'm trying to see if I can spot the queen. She's a bit like a needle in a haystack, but I wanted to see if I could show her to you. There's a tool called a queen excluder, and that pretty much lets all the other bees through except for the queen, so you can kind of keep her in a certain brood chamber if you want to. But we are very minimalist. We don't like to use anything that's not natural, or we like to try to stay as natural as possible, so we don't use queen excluders. I mean, to me, they're very enjoyable, and I guess it's just something that pulls at my heartstrings a bit because I enjoy working with them so much. I want them to be as healthy as possible, and it's not just about, hey, how much profit can I make off these guys? How much honey can I generate? It's about keeping them healthy, so that's why we'll leave them enough honey to survive the winter instead of robbing it all and feeding them sugar water. It just makes for a healthier bee. A couple of years ago, I had kind of talked it over with her and expressed interest in it. I think she thought it was just a fleeting thought, so she kind of gave in hesitantly and bought the first package offline, and it arrived at the United States Postal Service, and we've ordered stuff through them regularly. And queens, they ship queens in envelopes just like a regular package. Those are just what's called a nucleus colony. So it's a swarming mechanism, a swarming prevention mechanism. I'll take, and if a colony gets too strong, I'll split off a couple of frames of brood and give them some honey and some pollen to eat, and I'll put them in that small condensed colony. And it pretty much tricks the parent colony into thinking they swarm, so that urge is satisfied. This is just a cardboard box, and it's coated in wax to help it hold up to the elements a little better. And it consists of only 5 frames. So you'll see, typically there's a lot of brood, and then they'll have some stores in each as well. But we typically sell colonies for $125 each because it comes with 5 frames and a good start. If you were to order just a 3-pound package of bees, you're probably going to pay between $65 and maybe $85 after you take in shipping. So you're off to a much better start if you have a nucleus, because they have already have frames, already have drawn out stores of honey and pollen, and then they have brood. So that may take them 2 or 3 weeks to build up from a package of bees. So essentially, let me get a solid cap. That's what the completely capped, drawn out honey is going to look like. And really, this tool is designed so that we have to make one pass. Very efficient. Speeds the process up a lot. And I'll let those cappings fall down in there. Pretty much we made a mistake of leaving the garage door open with all these empty supers in here after the honey harvest. And I didn't think the bees would find it in a matter of just a few minutes, but they did, and pretty much we left the garage door closed and let them fill their bellies, and now the majority of them are trying to get back out to the hive, so they're hitting the window there. So I closed the door to keep more from coming in. I just wanted these guys to fill up so they can go home. So there were more waiting to come in outside, so we're going to have a fun morning when we come out to get in the car. Seems like a lot of them left, but it could actually be advantageous because they'll clean out those empty supers for me and I don't have to move them out into the yard. So that was my plan, to move them out to let them clean them out before I stored them long term.